Hi there. Happy New Year from Bourbon Turntable. Okay, so these are fun and festive and all, but uh, I can't see and I don't want to give anybody a seizure, so I'm going to change glasses to my regular glasses so that I'm not blind. There. Much better. Hi, welcome. Thanks for coming. We appreciate you being here. And uh, so for our year in review show for 2024, and we will start with the usuals, which will be telling you about Bar Cart Co-op. Bar Cart Co-op is a collection of friends who produce content for the whiskey enthusiast. We have shows like Distillers Talk. Alan Bishop, Christy Atkinson will talk with distillers from across the country and around the world about anything and everything in terms of distillation. Then we have shows like One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute is another Alan Bishop joint. Alan will talk with distillers who have questions about anything and everything in terms of distillation. You have a question, send it to Alan. He'll give you an answer. Alan also has a show, If You Have Ghosts, You Have Everything. On this show, doesn't really have a whole lot to do with whiskey. Has a whole lot to do with the supernatural, the spiritual, the paranormal, the unknown. A lot of fun to listen to this. Alan always has some fascinating guests. My Whiskey Den with Pat and Mike and Mitch every Monday night, 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central. My Whiskey Den, where craft whiskey is king. Then we have David Levine and Whiskey in My Wedding Ring. David is a great writer. He has some fantastic reviews of whiskey that I rely on quite a bit. He also does some wonderful interviews and podcasts with distillers and people in the distiller adjacent industries. Then we have our show, Bourbon Turntable. If you're watching us right now, hit that subscribe button on YouTube. We would really appreciate it. We also have podcast shows as well on Apple, Spotify, or Google. So thank you all for tuning in. Right as we went on, my light went out. The little circular light went out. So I feel like I'm in Puerto Rico because they're in the dark right now, unfortunately. Okay, so what I want to do is kind of take you through 2024 and allow everybody to see just kind of what all went on during the year. It's been a fun year. A lot of really cool things have happened. And along the way, I'll share with you not necessarily like a typical awards show, but as we're going through the year, I'll point out things that, okay, this is a whiskey of the year type of candidate. This is a spirit that you really need to seek out and try, or this is a band or an album or a singer that deserve high accolades. So that's kind of the point of the show. We've got a few nuggets in between. We'll be talking about this new Little Book product, Little Book Infinite. I took the wax off, but I've not opened it yet, so I'll be trying it for the first time with you. And we'll talk about some things that I think are going to happen in 2025, some things to look for, and we'll have some announcements about the show as well. So without any further ado, let's get started. And in January, we started off the year in a pretty cool way. We had Nancy Fraley, blender extraordinaire, on with us. Also, an accomplished bass player in her own right. We did a show with Nancy, and Alan Bishop was on. Boomer Purcell, Andrew Brockman's on as well, and we talked about our favorite bass players and we drank some whiskey as well. So that was a good way to kick off the year. Then we came, had the band Tin Zelkova on and tasted some Bardstown Bourbon Company whiskey and MB Roland with them. And I'll have to apologize in advance. I've got a little bit of a tickly throat today, so hopefully we'll get into some whiskey soon, and that will help that along. But watch out for Tin Zelkova. They've done some had a really good 2024. They got to go out west. They played at the Whiskey in L.A. They've got a new single coming out, I think, in a day or two. So be on the lookout for them. Then we had back-to-back shows with Jason Bronner and John Wadle. So we did one show where we focused on Peerless and tasted that. The three of us tasted that together. And then we had another show where we focused on Buzzard Roost and tasted that together. Worked in some music conversations as well. This is their double oak from Peerless. This is a fantastic bottle. I think that the toasted barrel expressions that they've come out with this year are probably some of the best things that they've done. I think they're all the way up into batch 5 of toasted barrel, which I think is coming out within the next couple of days. So be sure to look out for that. That will be a lot of fun. And then with Buzzard's Roost, they continue to just kill it with everything that they're doing. This is a Founders Select bottle. It is an 8-year bourbon, single barrel, 115.6 proof. I think this is available in the distillery Whiskey Row Experience. So go down and grab yourself a bottle. It's fantastic. So kudos to Jason and Judy and Ethan and everything that they are doing down at Buzzard's Roost. Then we got into February, and we had back-to-back shows again with Leilani Kilgore and Jeremiah Johnson. Jeremiah Johnson is a bluesman's bluesman, and Leilani Kilgore she's just a fantastic performer and songwriter, great vocals. Kind of to me, there's a little bit of a Linda Ronstadt feel there. And we'll talk more about Linda Ronstadt later, but had back-to-back shows with them as they were doing a show together in St. Louis, which I got to go to. Mike joined me there as well, so we had a good time with that. So be sure to check those artists out. Then we had Jeff Gorman from the band Illiterate Light on. They've had 2 EPs out this year, so they have been busy. They have been touring nonstop. Slow Down Time came out in, I believe, February or March, and then their second EP, Arches, came out, I think, on November 1st. Both are incredibly good. The closing track to Slow Down Time is Killer, Not a Lover, and that's kind of in Song of the Year kind of category. But both of the EPs are really, really good, worth your time to check those out. EPs are great because you're not investing, an hour in an album, and sometimes there's so much competing for everyone's time. An EP is a nice thing. But they've done several EPs as a band. I got to see them live twice, and they're just killer. It is a next level experience. I've not been to a live show quite like it before. Just the energy that they have and what they're able to do as a 2-piece live is pretty cool. So be sure to check out Illiterate Light. Like I say, they tour a lot. So if they're in your area, make plans to see them. Sarah Jean Kelly was also on the show. Sarah Jean is an artist out of Nashville. She had a new single come out called Whiskey to Water. She's had a couple others come out this year as well. And for my money, there's not a better vocalist, female vocalist around. She is a songbird to the nth degree. Very good songwriter as well. So we had a lot of fun talking with her, and she's somebody that you should get to know. Then in March, well, that was March. In April, we had Beth Burrows on. Beth is the brand ambassador for Jim Beam in the United States, which I think that's what her title is. At any rate, she came on and she was a great sport. A lot of fun. I subjected her to a blind tasting of Jim Beam products. And it took some guts for somebody to step up and say, hey, I'll do that. Because blind tastings, as Mike and I talked on our last show, blind tastings can be embarrassing because you'll get tripped up with the truth. But this was just an interesting experiment, really. It was different expressions of bakers. And I know she's very fond of bakers as the spirit and Baker Beam as the man. So she was a lot of fun to have on. So while we're talking about Beam, and this no reflection on Beth whatsoever, but we're on Beam now. So just wanted to go over a couple of things that I have an issue with. And one is this little book, Infinite, that came out. Said, here's a bottle. Comes in a nice little box. Happy New Year. So my issue with it is this. I don't think the math works. And when I say the math, I'm not talking about the proof. Although if you're putting ABV on your bottle, take it to 1 decimal. Don't make us do that much math to convert it to proof. And this label is very difficult to read. It is black on very dark gray, so that's kind of tough. But that's not that. All that aside, the way this has been promoted is it's Infinite Edition 1, and it's supposed to contain 20-year bourbon that was distilled by Booker, 14-year bourbon that was distilled by Fred, 7-year bourbon that was distilled by Freddie, and 8-year that they call shared. Now, I've tried to do as much research as I can on this online to see what all's involved here. Some people say that they think one of these groups has rice in the mash bill. Somebody else is saying that it is Basil Hayden toasted for one of those. I don't know. And that's not my issue with it either. Let's give it a taste, see what we say. It's very good. It's it drinks a lot like an oakier Booker's, to be honest. Weighs in at 119.3 proof. Boy, there's a lingering sweet oak on that finish that goes on for a long time. But again, that was the neck pour. So if you people are really into science, then that's going to be the worst part of the bottle. Eye roll. Um, so again, uh, the issue that I have is the math of this, and before I get critical, if you know me, you know that I am a very big fan of Booker's bourbon, and Booker No as a distiller. To me, he's on the Mount Rushmore of distillers. Um, my bourbon group, since we started it, every February we have Booker's Night, okay, which we've expanded into Black Wax Night because the black wax on the top of the bottles, so we can bring in Little Book and Knob Creek and Old School Bakers as well. So uh, I'm coming at this from the standpoint of someone who's a big fan of the product, and there's an entire shelf plus in my bourbon cabinet that is nothing but Booker's. The first barrel pick I went on was Knob Creek. So I have a long history of loving and supporting the Beam brands, but a couple of issues I've got. Again, this is supposed to contain 20-year bourbon that was distilled by Booker. Here's why I say the math may not work. Booker retired in 1992. So 20 years from 1992 would be 2012. And we're sitting here in 2024 when this was released. So did they dump whiskey that Booker had distilled right before he retired and put it in a vat and let it sit there for a dozen years? Okay. After Booker retired, Jerry Dalton came in. He was the master distiller from 98 to 2007. So maybe Booker snuck back in the distillery and distilled some whiskey during that time. Well, Booker passed away in February of 2004. That's 20 years. So again, how does that math work? I'm not trying to be a smart aleck about this, but I think it's a very valid question that, quite honestly, I've been a bit disappointed that I've not seen anybody in the mainstream whiskey media ask. Everybody just takes the whole press release from Beam about this Little Book Infinite at face value, and I just want to understand how that happened. How did we get 20-year bourbon distilled by Booker, given the timeline? I think that's a reasonable question. And quite honestly, I think it's one that Beam should have answered preemptively. And I also think it's something that whiskey media, and you know who you are, and you're probably not watching this, so okay. And nobody at Beam is watching this either, but it's something that we need to ask questions about what's being put in front of us. And my question is, how did this work? How did you get 20-year bourbon distilled by Booker, given when he retired and given when he passed away? It's a great story, but it requires or demands some further explanation, let's say. So let's take that and put it aside. This is very good. Um, I've been a fan of the Little Book products. I think Freddie's doing a knockout job with all those. It's a great add-on to the premium whiskeys coming out of Jim Beam. He's making use of a lot of different things that he has at his disposal in terms of doing these blends, and I think this is really good. One sip of it, but it's really good. So that's one issue that I've got with Beam. The other goes back to Booker's again. This is what was announced as the 2024 batches. In 2024-03 was supposed to be Jerry's batch in honor of Jerry Dalton. And as you remember from this timeline, Jerry was the master distiller at Beam from 98 till 2007. He bridged the gap between Booker and Fred. Uh, and the plan was, at least at one time, to honor Jerry and his contribution as the master distiller with batch 3 being Jerry's batch. Well, what ended up happening is the name of batch 4, which was master distiller's batch, was moved to 2024-03, and 2024-04 became Jimmy's batch in honor of Jimmy Russell. So why did that change occur? There's no explanation for it. I did talk with somebody at Beam about it, and it, again, not necessarily the person that would have made that decision or would necessarily be in the know, but they didn't really have much of an explanation either, other than, well, sometimes they'll change a name because if they're using a person's name, it could be for some sort of legal reasons. Well, there have been lots of batches of Bookers that have used individuals' names, including batch 4 from 2024, which is Jimmy's batch. So again, why is Jerry Dalton being seemingly disrespected by Jim Beam? If you go to Jim Beam's website, Jerry Dalton never existed. So I don't understand that. I get the marketing people probably like the story that there's always been a Beam as master distiller, but it's just not true. And I think, and this is not any way a diss at Fred or Freddie or anybody in that family, but I don't understand, and I think that we can do better. We should expect better. So enough of that. Hopefully we can get some answers to some of these questions at some point in time. Coincidentally, the show after I talked with Beth, and again, none of this is a reflection on Beth. Beth is fantastic. She's always been super responsive, and I greatly appreciate that. But the show that came right after that, song with Jerry Dalton. This is from a photo that I got to take with Jerry. His book is The Way of Bourbon. Highly encourage you to check it out. Really good stuff there. And follow him on Facebook. He posts, I don't know, a couple times a week, and he'll have excellent little vignettes on distillation and bourbon and uh, just really good stuff. So follow him on Facebook, Jerry O. Dalton. Good stuff there. Um, then we had a couple of fun shows with Chris Koenig, and Mike was on there with me again. Chris is at Golden Beaver Distillery. Um, he's he's knocking it out of the park. Um, I think I'll talk more about Golden Beaver later on in the show, but they're doing great. And Chris is a super good guy. Uh, Knows and loves his music, and so we did a show where we tasted some Golden Beaver bourbon and talked about California music. And Chris is from California, based in Chico, and so we talked about the whole California sound, Bakersville sound, and we talked a whole lot about Linda Ronstadt, a whole lot about Linda Ronstadt. So that was fun. And so the whole social media algorithm thing after that show, just showing up in reels and just different suggested groups, all into Ronstadt stuff for a while. It was crazy. Not that I minded that much, but it was crazy. So after we talked with Chris and Mike about Linda Ronstadt and others, had James Gerard from Barrel House Distilling over in Lexington. This is a spot that you need to hit if you're coming to Kentucky to do the trail. Um, really good distillery. They make some excellent whiskey. I think you can only get it here in Kentucky. But also have um, Elkhorn Tavern, which is right next to it. It's a great place to stop in for lunch while you're hitting the trail. Then had Boone Froggatt on. That's Boone. He's with the band Otis. He also does a lot of work with the Kentucky Headhunters. And um, Otis had an album that came out a couple years ago called Eyes of the Sun. To me, it's one of the top albums of the decade. Uh, and I got a chance to see Otis live like 3 times within the span of a month. So that was kind of cool. And they're incredibly good live. Their music is fantastic. Their latest single is Last Fool in the Line. And I kind of hearken it to Howlin' Wolf and the Heartbreakers. So it has that bluesy sound of Howlin' Wolf and has that mid-tempo rocker of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. But Boone was a great guest and has been super nice to stay in touch. And I just look forward to great things for them in the future as they're moving along. Then had David Levine on. You guys know David. He's part of our Bar Cart Co-op. That's him. I think that's from a show we did with him a couple years ago. But David and I exchanged samples of different things that the other had not tried, and just had a good time talking through that. It's always a good conversation with David. Well, like I said, real smart guy, horrible fantasy football player, horrible, horrible. Thankfully, he can review a whiskey a whole lot better than he can play fantasy football. Then we get to June and had Ken Schreiner on. And this was a real honor, in fact, because when Ken's first uh, show that he did to promote uh, AJ Schreiner Spirits was Bourbon Turntable. So thank you, Ken, for that. That was very kind of you, and really appreciate it. But this is the Heritage Rye. It is a blended rye, and it is quite fantastic. Um, got to try that on the show with Ken. Also have a gin that is incredibly good that he partnered with Alan Bishop uh, to make the gin. So go to, you can follow AJ Schreiner on social media, Facebook, Instagram. Go to the website and you can order the rye or the gin. I think that Ken's got some really good things cooking down the road as well. Um, then we get in further into the month, and we had Van Winkle and the Spirits. It was a new band for us on the show. Really good music, good guys. They've got a new EP out as well, so be sure to check that out. Um, really good music, really good music. Then we had a couple of shows where we got to visit with some old friends. Um, by the way, Golden Beaver hat. There you go, Chris. Um, got to visit with some old friends. We did a show with Stephanie Newburton. Um, she's just wonderful, sweetheart. Really appreciate her. Sad I don't get to see her as much as I used to, but she's fantastic. She's got a podcast that she calls the Highly Spirited Podcast, where she'll do tell ghost stories basically and have cocktails that go along with that. Talk about murder ballads. And so when she was on the show, we talked about murder ballads and we made up some of the cocktails that she's had on the show. So it was a lot of fun, really good time, and just enjoyed catching up with her. Speaking of old friends, we did our first in the gin series with Christy Atkinson. Christy, I mean, she's extremely knowledgeable when it comes to anything related to whiskeys, but especially gin. She's got a great knowledge of it, and she pulled together some samples. And I said, "Hey, what if we did, a show about gin?" And we talked through some ideas, and we're going to do some future ones on this. But this was just pulling a whole lot of stuff together. I think we had seven gin samples that we tried that night, and it was a lot of fun. I learned a lot, and I'll look forward to doing that again with her soon. And we're in July. We had Chris Tapp from the Cold Stairs on, and Chris is has become a really good friend of the show, and I'm honored to have him on anytime that he can come on. They had his band, it's the Cold Stairs. These guys are fantastic, Brian and Bryce. They had a new album out called The Southern. This is, if you're going to look at album of the year kind of candidates, this is definitely in the running for it. It was kind of a nod to Southern rock roots, but it's still most definitely the Cold Stairs kind of sound. So had a great time with Chris, and love having him on. Had him on again later in the year when we did that guitar special. Also in July had Turner Wathen on. Turner is Rolling Fork Spirits, had focused on rum for several years, got into some other things this year, some French spirits, Armagnac and this is a 25-year Calvados. This might be the best thing I drank all year. And good pop. Happy New Year. Let's take a little sip of this. Calvados is basically French apple brandy, to put it at its most basic level. But this is worth checking out. You can order it through his website, and I would highly recommend it. Such so very good. So check that out. And then shortly after that, Turner revived the Bourbon Deluxe brand name. And Bourbon Deluxe was out of Texas, and it was actually whiskey sourced from Turner's, I think, great grandfather, who ran Wathen's distillery. And so now Turner's got that brand, and he's very transparent. The fact that's the what's in the bottle is sourced bourbon, and I believe it's 6 or 8 year Barton, which I've kind of been neutral on Barton for most of my time, but that stuff is fantastic. So go online, order a bottle of this from Turner, order a bottle of the Bourbon Deluxe from Turner. You will not be disappointed. Both are just incredibly, incredibly good. Golly day, that's good. So congratulations, Turner. You've had a great 2024. Expecting more in 2025, because a couple things that I've had from you in 24 have just been amazing. Then had Parker Barrow on the show. Parker Barrow is a band based in Nashville. Dylan Turner and Megan Kane are married. Megan is the lead singer. Dylan is the drummer and writes a lot of the songs. Dylan is from Maryland. Megan is from Alabama, but they live in Nashville now. So we did a show with them where we were drinking some Sagamore spirits out of Maryland. We were drinking some Detling out of Alabama. So that was fun. Got to catch up with them. Then got to see them. Me and Cindy and Dylan on my right, and then Megan on the other end. And it's not in the picture, but this is August, so it's hot, and Dylan is wearing like black velvet pants playing the drums. The dude, you can tell how soaked he is. He's just drenched in sweats, but I hugged him. You can see that I got a little on me too. So but I love those guys. I told them I'd adopt them if they'd let me. Megan is again, if there were 2 female vocalists that I'd highlight this year, it would be Sarah Jean Kelly and Megan Kane. And there behind Megan is Alex Bender. Alex is a great guitarist and has been a major contributor to the band since he joined in. So check out Parker Barrow. Have a little bit more to say about them later on. But they've had a really busy year. They've just toured all over the place. Then we get to August, and I got to catch up with our good friend Benjamin Eves. This is a shot that we got, Mike and I got when we went to visit Ben a couple weeks ago. But Ben is doing really, really well over at Kentucky Artisan. He's involved in a lot of things, in getting more and more responsibilities there. creating some projects on his own there. So very excited about Ben and what all he's got going on. So kudos to Ben. And I'm going to take another drink here of this Calvados. Okay. One criticism of this wax, it looks pretty, but you got to have a thing that you can peel it off. I mean, look at the little book. It's got it had a nice little tab. It just comes off nice and clean. This I kind of had to pick apart. So if you're gonna wax this, make it where we can open it because it's too good to have to fight with. So after Ben in August, I got to do a 2-part show with Mojo Thunder. Band called an album called The Infinite Hope came out for them this year. Right there is that album, and I was remiss in not pointing out that the Southern is right here as well. The fact that those are up for my year-end review show should tell you those are 2 of the knockout albums of the year. And here's a fun picture of the guys. Did one show with Zach and Andrew, and then did a follow-up show with Bryson and Sean. Sean Sullivan, pictured here, he does play guitar in the band. He is also the lead vocalist, and for my money, you're not going to find a lead singer with pipes better than Sean. He's incredibly talented. So Mojo Thunder, check those guys out. They've had a really good 2024. They toured Europe, did some limited touring here in the States. If you get a chance to see them in 2025, be sure to do it. We went international in September for the first time, and we had Jesse Redwing, who is a blues guy out of Australia. I think I was recording the show at 6 o'clock in the morning with him. But Jesse's fantastic. Great blues guy. I talked about Jeremiah Johnson earlier, kind of a blues guy's blues guy. Same thing with Jesse. He's just super, super good. Actually, and played harmonica on Chris Tapp's on a song on Chris Tapp's solo album. So all the more reason to check that out. Then we went to Canada. Dylan Gray, she is a young up and comer out of Toronto. Had a good time talking with her, and I think that she's got a lot of potential to do some really great things as a singer and songwriter. Get On Up was her big single from the year. Kind of call it to me. It had that good feel hit of the summer vibe to it. So be sure to check that out. We did a spur of the moment review show with Jason Johannes of All Things Blues and Southern Rock podcast. We've done some things with those guys from time to time, but we just got together. We did a song by song review of the Southern, and there's a lot of nonsense going on in that show too. So if you're a fan of nonsense, if you're a fan of the Cold Stares, that would be a show for you. Mike Mostert of the band In Theory was on. Mike is a very accomplished guitarist. The layers of guitars in his music is incredible, but at the same time, that guitar will take a back seat when it's the right thing for the song. And one thing about In Theory, and let me take a sip of water here. One thing about In Theory is the guitar riffs are next level. World on Fire, the opening guitar riff of that, riff of the year. First time I heard, came across In Theory's music, I kind of had to stop and listen to everything that they had. Made me late for a meeting, but it was worth it. Really good stuff, and had a fun time talking with Mike on that show. Then we had our third anniversary show, Turntable Roundtable, with Steve Coombs, David Levine, Mike Lesick, and myself. I just had a series of questions that I threw out to these guys, and they were good sports to put up with it. Again, had a really good time doing that, and just talked a lot about the state of the whiskey industry, what's our least favorite finish, hello Amburana, and things of that nature. So it was a good time. So third anniversary show, it was a live show. You can check that out again if you'd like. Then had the band Revelry. They were out of Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Their EP is called South of Nashville. Had Dane and Zach and Cruz on from the band. And again, this is kind of album of the year kind of territory with these guys. Their songwriting is clever, but it's very authentic, which is one of the worst words to use when describing music, but it's true. It is very authentic, very open, honest, and it just rocks. There's a definite Skynyrd vibe there, and they don't back away from that. It is as good of modern Southern rock as you'll hear anywhere. I'll listen to this routinely, so be sure to check out Revelry. Then we circled back with our friends from Buzzard Roost. We did a show with Jason and Ethan. Ethan did a pick for Buzzard Roost along with his dad, who works at Independent Stave. And they called it the Kindred Collaboration bottle. And yeah, I got a bottle right here. There it is. Excellent. I think it's like $65. A bargain. Well worth it. It had Ethan and Jason on it and talked about things that were going on with Buzzard Roost and Whiskey Row Experience. And then, I don't know, maybe a month or two later, had Judith Hollis Jones. Judy was on. Judy is a co-founder of Buzzard Roost with Jason. Judy handles a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff, the business side of it. So we got to talk a lot about that. Talked to her about music. She's a big fan of jazz, so that was kind of cool. We don't get a lot of that here, but I welcome it. And just, these are good folks, and they're doing good work, putting out good whiskey. It's a brand that I feel a very strong connection to personally. And if you haven't tried Buzzard Roost, what are you waiting on? If you have the opportunity to pick up some of their stuff at the distillery, do so. But they've not put out a bad one yet. So you can have a lot of confidence when you see something with the Buzzard Juice logo on it that it's really good whiskey. Now, this was a really fun show to do. We had our friend and former co-host Drew Crawley on to talk about his new album, Hard to Hold. If you haven't heard that yet, get on Spotify or Apple or whatever you use and look up Drew. Hard to Hold is really good stuff. I'm extremely biased when it comes to Drew. He and I have been friends for a long time. We've walked through a good bit of life together, and I could not be more proud of him. And this album coming out, his marriage to Caitlin, he's just had a lot of really cool stuff happen in 2024. So hopefully it'll continue in 2025. Then, and also when we were talking with Drew about that, we got to sample this Joseph Magnus cigar blend bourbon that Nancy Fraley had named one of the batches after Bourbon Turntable. So that was very cool, and very excited about that. My friend Mark Krebs found that bottle for me, so thank you very much, Mark. Very kind and generous of you. Then we get into finishing up October with Iron Root Distillery, who celebrated their 10th anniversary. We had Robert Licorice, who he and his brother started the distillery, and Shannon Hood, who's been a friend for a long time and now works with Iron Root. So that was very cool. Again, we're talking whiskey of the year kind of stuff. Iron Root Harbinger cigar blend is a definite candidate, meaning get your hands on it. If there's a distillery of the year out there, Iron Root is certainly in the running for it, because it's again, no misses at all. So go to your liquor store. I know in Total Wine, they're starting to carry more and more Iron Root product. You can also order it online. You got to pick it up at the distillery, but find a mule if you're fortunate enough to do that, and get this stuff going. Iron Root, great year, great product. Congratulations to everybody on the Iron Root team. Then it was Alan Bishop Day, and Alan is now at Old Homestead Distilling. Did a show with Alan and Mike, basically just reflecting back on Alan, his career at the old place, what he's got going on at Old Homestead, and we got to go by and visit and pull some samples of what he's making. He calls it Sunshine, because it is sunflower based, and it's also made in the daylight as opposed to moonshine, which is made in the dark where nobody can see it. So this is really, really good stuff. Old Homestead is got some good stuff going on. I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a few minutes. We had Maggie Kimbrell on. Maggie is the editor at American Whiskey Magazine. She's been out to visit the George Washington Distillery and Steve Bayshore. Maggie really got into the show when she was a guest. She's a lot of times the distillers or the whiskey people in this case are more interested in talking about the music side than they are the whiskey side, and she definitely fell into that category. Maggie's a talented writer, and honored to have her on the show. But she really got into the whole music thing and had I don't know 10 or 12 different uh, vinyl albums that she was had to like show and tell of. Okay, these are the things that tell the story of her uh, whiskey journey or her music journey, I should say. So it was really fun to have her on the show. Hope to have her again. A lot of fun. Then went international again. Went to Germany this time. I do not speak German, but thankfully, Pia Rodeman, who is the lead singer of the band Dear Robin, spoke really, really good English. And that's Pia, very talented vocalist. Uh, their album, Time Bound, is one that, again, album of the year kind of territory. Uh, there's some uh, the the way the keys interact with the guitars and her vocals. Um, it's just really good stuff. Um, really enjoyed it. Can't you know I'd love to see him live. I don't know that they have any plans to tour the States, but there are some live videos out there as well. So check that out. Dear Robin, the album is called Time Bound. Highly recommended. Then had our good friend Lenny Eckstein from Deer Hammer Distilling out in Buena Vista, Colorado on. Um, Lenny is he's one of my favorites. I'll just to be honest, and that's for a lot of reasons. One, he's very humble. He's very generous with his time, and always ready to come on and talk. Um, but he also is willing to try pretty much anything in the world of distillation, and that's kind of what we did. He sent me a bunch of samples, and it was okay. Here's our basic American single malt, and here it is with a different yeast strain, and here it is finished in a different cask, and here's this bourbon, and just uh, so we were trying kind of the base products, and then uh, experimental things that he had done, and that was a lot of fun. If there's a distiller of the year, it you know Lenny would certainly be worthy of that. Just with all that he does, I think in terms of creativity, it's tough to top Lenny or somebody like Todd Leopold or Chris Koenig. Um, you know, those guys are just the best. So always love having Lenny on, and just think the world of him. Um, then got into let's see, got into December. Did our guitar special where we had Boone Froggatt, Bryson Willoughby, um, uh, Blue Williams from Sweet Lady, and Chris Tapp from the Cold Stairs. We just got on, drank some whiskey, talked about our favorite guitarists. That was a lot of fun. I really enjoy doing those shows, and I appreciate those guys for being generous with their time. Um, did a support local show where we talked about the importance of supporting local artists in your area, wherever that area may be, supporting local distilleries in your area, wherever that may be. We had Earl Bowman on. Earl is, man, he's a good songwriter and has kind of a Jerry Reed vibe to him. Just released a new song this past week called Wannabe. Again, just a super songwriter. And Zeno Jones, who is going to be headed to the World Blues competition in Memphis here in a few days. Uh, Zeno, he does this one man band thing where he's playing guitar, playing drums, um, all at the same time, and singing, and a great blues experience with Zeno. Then last show we did, Mike came to town. We hit Whiskey Row and other places, and you can tell that we were in the Christmas spirit and having a jolly good time. So that kind of takes you through 2024. One thing I do want to mention is, we're talking about whiskey of the year type bottles. This Bardstown Bourbon Company high wheat bourbon, that is definitely in the running. One of the best things I've had all year. It's like $55. So, don't tell them that they should raise the price, but this is exceptionally good. Exceptionally good. So, one of the things I get from the podcast downloads is kind of tells me I don't get a lot of detail on it and don't care that much. But one of the things that it said was there were people that listened to this show from 19 different countries. That's crazy to me. But I appreciate it. But I thought that was kind of cool. We don't get the biggest reach in the world, but I don't think there's anybody that cares as much about the guests that they have as I do. I want to make this a good experience. I want it to be something that all the guests are proud to be a part of. With that being said, want to take a little look at 2025. Old homes. We talked about Old Homestead a bit. That's one to watch in 2025 when they start releasing their stuff. Get labels on it, get bottles on the shelf at the distillery. You're going to want to get a hold of this because it's going to be fantastic. Everything that I've tried from there that Alan's done has been exceptional. And Joey Kasperzak is instrumental in making that go and making that successful as well. So look for Old Homestead. Iron Root, I know that they've still got some cool releases that are going to come out in 2025. So keep your eye on what they're doing. Deerhammer, and talking with Lenny, they've got some cool stuff that's going to happen in 2025 as well. They did not do their special release series this year because it just wasn't ready. So look for that to come back next year. Already talked about Golden Beaver. I know that Chris has a new single barrel coming out. I think he's got some other cool stuff in the works too. Just hit them up online, and I think you can order from their website as well as from Sealbox. Bardstown Bourbon Company, these guys are just killing it with this Origin series. It makes you question, why would I spend $100 more on a discovery series or collaboration series when I can buy this for $55 and you're not going to top it. It's just super, super good. So keep your eyes on what Bardstown's doing, especially with the Origin series stuff. Stolen Wolf, Eric Wolf up in Pennsylvania. I know that he's been collaborating with Alan on some things. I know they've got some Rose and Rye stuff coming out independent of that. Always really good stuff there, and great people up at Stolen Wolf. But the big thing is, to me, in whiskey this year, it's survival for a lot of folks. And that's one of the reasons I was pushing this whole support local notion. Uh, if there's a distillery that you really like, and I'm not talking about the big guys. I mean, Jim Beam's going to survive. Okay, they're going to make it. They're not going to have any issues. You know, Buffalo Trace, they don't have a problem. Okay, but I'll, apart from the really big guys, everybody else is they're they're working their butts off to make it. And if there's something that you like, especially if it's part of your local economy, support that. Uh, Share it on your social media. You have an impact. You have an audience. You have influence. Share this stuff on social media of the brands that you really like. Comment on it. Refer people to it. Buy bottles. Okay. Order it at bars. Okay, because that will tell the bartenders, the owners of the bar, that people are drinking this whiskey. I need to order more of it. So support the non big guys, because it means a lot. In the world of music, last night my wife and I we ate at Bourbon's Bistro for New Year's Eve dinner, and then went to Taj, which is a local bar here in Louisville, to hear our good friend Dusty Bowe. Dusty's probably the guy that I've seen the most this year. He's done a open mic series at Tin Roof here in town, and it's been great. And Dusty's working hard. He's playing a lot of places, and I've tried to go see him as much as I can because his music's fantastic. Um, so looking forward to 2025. Dusty Bowe is one of those guys that I think this is going to be a big year for him. He's got some fairly extensive tour plans in the works. He's got I think, 3 singles that'll be coming out over the next few months, and then an album that'll be coming out. I've heard most of the songs that are going to be on the album as he's performed them live. This is going to be a really, really good rock and roll record. And Dusty's it. He's just got it. He's a great songwriter, excellent guitarist, excellent vocalist, and he's a good dude. So I hope that 2025 is a big year for him because he's working it. Speaking of working it, Parker Barrow working hard in 2024. They only released one new song, which was a rework of "Don't Tell Mama," which, again, go see the video. It's fantastic. They had another video that came out in the year, Back to Birmingham, a single off of their Jukebox Gypsies album. That was great. That video topped 1 million views. So if you've not seen it yet, it's worth you seeing. But they're working hard, and they've got new music that's going to come out in 2025. And I think that's another band that's just going to take off. I think they're just going to take off. Cold Stairs, they had the Southern that came out this year, or in 2024. 2025, they'll have the Southern Part 2. I think the first single off of that comes out in 10 days. I think it comes out on January 10th. Southern Part 2 is actually the sequel may top the original. So again, these guys are working it. They've toured Europe. They've toured all over the States. They're expanding their touring in 2025. Again, I think they're just on that kind of trajectory. Parker Barrow, I say that they're on a superstar trajectory, and that's for fact. Cold Stairs, they're on that as well. Really good stuff. And then finally, one band that I think is going to have a big 2025 are good friends at Sweet Lady. They've been incredible live performers. They've got a handful of songs out as singles. I think they've wrapped up the recording of their album. I think they've got to do some mix on it, and that will come out in 2025. And I think they have some plans to do some significant touring. So look for big things from my friends in Sweet Lady. So that's kind of a wrap up of 2024 and a look ahead to 2025. Now, as for the show, I'm going to do something a little different for a while. I'm going to take a break. We've been doing this for 3 years, weekly show. That's a lot of content. And there are some other things that I just need to focus time on, both personally and professionally, that I want to make sure that I'm giving the attention to it that it deserves. So we'll probably be taking 8 weeks or so off from new shows. Social media will still be going, so I'll still be posting about music and whiskey and whatnot for the next. That won't stop, but won't be doing live shows or booking anything for a little while. I'll post new or I'll do some new posts on best of type of shows, encore presentations, whatever you want to call it, and we'll make that go. So I do appreciate everybody that popped in today. This was kind of last minute. I'll definitely post this online as well so that you can tune in later if you missed anything live. But I do want to thank everybody that does listen and supports the show. It is greatly appreciated. And until next time, Happy New Year. Cheers, love, and free bird. Good night.